In today's Outlander review, I have for you buffaloes, stroke bison, whichever one they are, snakes, and a very poorly Jamie. That's coming right up after this. Hello everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to today's episode. It is great to see you all. I hope you're having a good week. My name is Shaun and I'm a YouTuber from Edinburgh in Scotland, and I review Outlander on my channel because it is such a great connection program between Scottish culture and the Americas and how Scottish people ended up over there in the first place. A lot of you guys with your Scottish names ended up there because of what we see in the show. And I think that is absolutely amazing, and that is why I continue to review Outlander on my channel, plus I think it's great. The show has taught me so much about my own history in Scotland that I didn't even know about, and I'm very grateful for that, and also very grateful for this awesome community that is built up right here on my channel. It's great to see you all, as always. And if you're new here, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button, then you will be part of the gang going forward. Now listen, I'm going to open up a website very soon about Scotland, because I want to show people Scotland. I want people to come back to Scotland after this tragic virus event is over, because a lot of people in Scottish tourism are suffering now. I know from the comments there are a lot of you guys who had planned to go to Scotland this year but had to cancel because of coronavirus, right? And I don't think that is very good, not for you guys obviously, but also for Scotland. Scottish businesses are suffering. So I'm going to start up a website dedicated to travel in Scotland for when this is over. People can flood back into Scotland because they'll have all the information they need on my website. So I just wanted to tell you about those plans first of all before we get started today. And I'm looking for beta testers, people who look at the website first of all before anyone else, who get to tell me if it's looking good or if there's some things that could be changed. I need those early reviewers. So if you're interested in being one of those early testers, the first people to see my website all about Scotland and Scottish culture and Scottish travel, there is a link down below where you can sign up and you will be in that group. The first people to look at my new website all about Scotland. I've not revealed any other details yet, but I will in the very near future. Anyway, today's episode was one that the book readers are very fond of, right? And last week, in my last review, I upset book readers immensely with my views on Roger. And I feel like, to redeem myself, I had better like this episode because, like I said, it is a book reader's favourite. Let's see how we get on. Now, of course, I've not read the books until this stage in the series, so I don't know what's coming up. It's all new and fresh for me, but I do know that some of the things we're going to be talking about in today's episode were absolute favourites of this book that relates to this series. So let's see how we get on. I'm a bit nervous, but I have just watched the episode, and let me tell you, if you have not watched the episode yet, there's going to be spoilers in this review, and if you've not watched it, you might want to go away, watch the episode, and then come back and watch this. Also, in quite a long lead up till we get started into the review today, because there's been quite a lot going on, obviously, right? And one of the big things that happened this week in the Outlander fandom universe and real life people involved in Outlander is this week Sam Heughan put out a major post on social media, and a lot of you guys will have seen this. There's been a lot of discussion on all the Facebook groups that are involved in Outlander about this episode, about this event that happened. It's not our event, it's a series of events that's happened over years. Sam Heughan put on his Twitter and Instagram a large piece of text telling everyone about the abuse that he has suffered as an individual, and a lot of other cast members get exactly the same thing, but he's put a post out there to say that he's suffered basically bullying from a number of so-called fans. They're not really fans, they're just very sad people, alright? And I would like to think that everybody involved in this community who watches my videos and who's also following me on social media and all that kind of stuff, I would like to think you're not of that group, and I think we all need to send our collective best wishes to Sam. I think what's happening here, and I've seen it on social media, and anytime I've tried to call it out, I've been shut down by furious groups of people who are obviously involved in this kind of whole thing. But anyway, I think a lot of people struggle to differentiate between the characters in the show as opposed to the actors behind the show, right? There's certainly a small group of people out there who struggle to differentiate. And what they tend to do is they target the actors, partners, and a lot more absolutely crazy things on social media. And Sam Heughan rightly pointed out this week that he has had enough of it. And I think, like I said, we should all support him in making sure this stops and calling out wherever we see this bullying behaviour, right? Because there's one thing sending abuse to the actors, right? Which is obviously awful, but when that progresses and starts involving their loved ones and their partners and their family, and then people showing up to their properties, their private accommodation and all that kind of stuff. Then we're talking about an entirely new level that really, really affects these people's lives. You know, they're putting this show together, which is great, right? But I feel like there's a lot of pressure on these guys now, especially when people are taking it to that level of bullying. Like I said, I would hope this whole community here supports the actors in their plea for this to be stopped once and for all. So I think we all need to stay vigilant out there on social media, point it out wherever it happens, report posts wherever we see them, and stop the absolute ludicrous behaviour of a very small number of fans who are really, really bullying the actors. And like I said, this is a really great thing I think we've had going for a few years, and we don't want it to end on a sour note. So that's it. That's what I want to say on that. We all are behind Sam Heughan. And in today's episode, 509, Monsters and Heroes, we're actually going to be talking about Sam Heughan's character quite a lot today, because it basically revolved around him, although a lot of other characters are obviously very heavily into this episode as well. It was a big mix of the whole of our favourite cast members, but basically about Sam today, right? Jamie Fraser and his trouble that he ended up in today's episode was obviously really, really a massive moment in the books, like I said, okay? Let's get to that in a second. Alright, we start off with Marsley, seeing that she is actually very pregnant now. Very pregnant. I'm not sure how quickly we have progressed in the time period, but she didn't seem that pregnant in the other episodes. But now it's the point where the baby's coming, we're thinking, this episode, there could be a baby. Jamie needs able-bodied marksmen to go with him on a hunt. They're needing some meat, and they're seeing some animals moving through Fraser's Ridge. Fraser's Ridge, it is hunting season on the ridge, and the men of the family need to go out and shoot some animals to feed the family. They've got a large piece of land there at Fraser's Ridge and a lot of animals moving through, deer and what's going to appear on this episode. Speaking of Fraser's Ridge, by the way, I have a link down below to some merch, and there's a 10% discount. All you need to do is type in the discount code SEASON5 and you'll get 10% off when you check out. The links are down below. Jamie's needing an able-bodied marksman, and it must have been a little bit insulting for Roger at first when Jamie said to Brianna, we need you to come with us because you're a good shot, when Roger is standing right there. Anyway, Brianna's can't go because she is busy on the household and doing other stuff with Claire. Roger is available, and Jamie says, let's go, you're coming with us. You're coming hunting with us, Roger. So the big group of the men all go out into the woods. I see young Ian there, I seen Josiah, is that his name, Josiah? And a few others as well. They're on the hunt, they're on the look for some meat, and they come across it. They split up first of all. Jamie and Roger go their certain way to herd the animals towards the others who were going to end up waiting at the other side. Alright? And then we see them. There is a herd on a pasture of buffalo. Is it buffalo? Is it bison? This is something I'm a bit confused about, guys. I did a video on my channel this week, which a lot of people have commented on and watched, about crazy, dangerous animals in America. And that was purely by coincidence that I did this video about the most crazy animals that you have in America, in the Americas. And then this week's episode is essentially about those dangerous animals in Outlander. Total coincidence, I had no idea, right? Anyway, the link to that video is going to be down below. You want to go and check that out after. Such a coincidence because I talk about the two main animals involved in today's episode. I said it was bison in my review of animals in America, but they mentioned buffalo in this, right? We see buffalo. Jamie takes a shot, but it looks like it either hit the animal and the animal just took off anyway, or it missed, right? So they have a herd of bison on Fraser's Ridge. And as they go to progress, Jamie and Roger, Jamie yelps out in pain and then looks down. He has been bitten by a snake. And in that video of talking about the most dangerous, crazy animals in America, I talked about snakes because we don't really have many snakes in the UK. We do have adders and they are poisonous, but it would not kill you. It wouldn't put you in such a terrible state. It would probably just hurt very much, right? But in the Americas, in the Carolinas, you have like what? Rattlesnakes, you've got cottonmouths, and you also have the water moccasins and lots of other types of snakes that are very dangerous, very venomous, and they, if you're bit, will put you down and could kill you, right? And Jamie's been bit by one of them. What type of snake it is, I'm not really sure. Probably a rattlesnake, I don't know. Bit by a snake, right? And he's in big trouble, he's in a lot of pain. Roger grabs him, takes him down to the ground and says, listen, we need to do something now, but it's a dangerous snake. And in our time, we would have had an injection, not a vaccination, an anti-venom injection that would have saved you, but we don't have this in this time, unfortunately. I really like it in Outlander when people from the past, in Jamie's time, talk about or ask the characters who know about the future, about future things. I really think that's a fascinating thing. It's happened throughout Outlander. Probably not as much as I would like, because I think that's just such a fascinating concept of people from the past wanting to know about the future. Jamie asked Roger about what kind of thing would happen to him in those days if he'd been bitten by a snake. Anyway, their temporary solution was absolutely disgusting. Roger cuts into the bite on his leg, on Jamie's thigh, and then sucks out the blood, and with the hope of getting the poison out. Not a nice scene to watch. But I guess probably essential to try and save Jamie's life. Jamie is in a seriously bad way. His lips start to tingle, his toes are tingling, he's going numb. That is not a good sign if you've been bitten by a snake, I believe. Jamie and Roger have made camp for the night because they ain't going to get back on their own. Roger went off to try and find his way back to find some of the other men, but he couldn't figure his way back, so he had to look after Jamie that night. Jamie thinks he's going to die because he's in such a bad state. And then starts talking to Roger about all these big picture things that are going on in the background, right? He makes Roger promise that if Jamie dies, Roger will kill Stephen Bonnet. That would be quite a tough thing for Roger to do on his own, I think, without Jamie there, I would believe. But Jamie explains the significance of why that needs to happen because of young Jamie's estate, the will that's been left in his name, and then what could happen if the likes of Bonnet was to take over parental rights or whatever it is. Anyway, he might end up inheriting the whole estate as well, which would be, awful. Can't let that happen. In those discussions, Jamie said there is a fine line between monsters and heroes, which is obviously the name of this episode, right? And I think that's a really great line because I think Outlander's genius is often to make you think about the present through what they're saying in their speech, right? Monsters and heroes, there's often a fine line between those two things, and I think that's something that's very pertinent today as well. Roger, of course, says, if you want me to face Bonnet, you better teach me how to fight, so you need to stay alive, essentially. But Jamie's in a bad way at this camp, right? You would think, honestly, I've never read the books this far, like I said, and I would say he's about to die. That's what it makes you feel like. The acting was that good, it makes you think he's on his last legs, but we know that ain't going to happen, guys. Let's be real out there. There's no way Jamie's going to die. It's not going to happen. Impossible, right? So I was feeling pretty comfortable that would not actually, in fact, happen. Anyway, the next morning, Roger makes this kind of bed of sticks that Jamie lies on so he can drag him back, hopefully, to Fraser's Ridge, the house. Very difficult thing to do. Jamie's a big, heavy guy. He doesn't make it that far, but luckily, young Ian and the rest of them who were out there noticed that they were missing, and by the morning, and come looking after them, right? They come on their horses looking for them. It was a bit of a comedic moment when Roger hears them and tries to yell out, but of course his voice is still damaged and he can't scream. So that was a bit of a funny moment. So he bangs his stick on the tree, and then young Ian hears his stick banging and comes over to see them. And basically put Jamie on a horse and get him back to the house as soon as possible, where Claire would be able to hopefully sort things out. And if we go back just a few minutes, because I did skip over this part, but there was a conversation between Claire and Brianna as they were doing their thing there at the big house about Roger's place in this world and Brianna's place in this world, and that they don't quite fit. Roger certainly doesn't quite fit in this world. And I think that was quite important. And also Claire said, if she lost Jamie or Brianna, she would be totally lost as well. Anyway, they of course make it back to the house. They get onto Claire's hospital bed and they get to work, right? Claire has been a fortress, a steady hand when it's become to all medical things throughout Outlander, throughout all the seasons. Claire has been so solid when she's been at work as a doctor, right? No matter what kind of injuries she's seen. This, I think, was the first episode of Outlander I saw Claire under extreme pressure. She looked nervous and she didn't think she might actually be able to save her patient. Her husband, Jamie. Wow. There was a hilarious moment when Claire talks about doing autopsies on patients who had been bitten by snakes. That's the only time she's ever come across it. Jamie's like, autopsies? What are you talking about? Jamie looks in a terrible way, but like I said, I know that Jamie's not going to die. This is just impossible. So what would happen to this? How would he get through it? Because he looks awful. He's got sepsis, he's got blood poisoning, I think. He's definitely got an infection, a localized infection on his leg. The poison's working his way on his body as well. It's all not looking good at all. He's feverish. He's mad, and he does not want to lose his leg because Claire suggested and showed him, and he saw the saw on the table, that is going to be the only way to save him. They'd have to amputate his leg, essentially. He doesn't want it. He's not for it, and he's literally saying he would rather be killed than that happen. And he made Claire promise that would be the case. Anyway, Claire's not thinking about that right now. She wants to find a way to save him, and her solution is to find some maggots which would eat away at the dead, rotten flesh. So she sends a whole search party, the whole family go out there into the woods to see if they can find maggots. Not an easy thing to do, apparently. This is where we see Claire really, really kind of struggling with this. She said to Jamie, only one of us gets to be scared, and at the moment I'm scared, so please be strong. You could see she was struggling with this. And I think that was a really interesting dynamic. We've never seen that from Claire before. Jamie genuinely wants to die in the pain and suffering that he's feeling. He would rather die than have his leg taken off. Roger and Brianna out there looking for maggots, and they have the discussion about Roger talking to Jamie about Bonnet and what is going to happen. The plan that Jamie has hatched to kill Stephen Bonnet. And Brianna finds out about this, and I don't think she's happy about it. I don't think she's happy. She doesn't seem happy whatsoever. Probably because she's scared of what could happen in such a scenario where Jamie sets this whole thing up, and it's going to be Roger on his own now. It's going to have to deal with this. But Roger explains why. The whole thing about Stephen Bonnet being able to inherit the will and maybe even take young Jamie away from them. Anyway, back on the house, the big house, and then this crazy moment I was not expecting. They are on the garden, Brianna's there, the young kids there, and then a buffalo, I can't remember which one, walks onto the big house, into their yard, just like that. A couple of things I'm thinking here, right? Because one thing I know is that there are no buffaloes in Scotland, right? And they're obviously filming this in Scotland. Where did they find a buffalo? I don't know why these things pop into my head, but that did come into my head. Next thing I'm thinking about, when I did that video the other day about buffaloes, apparently I found out that the animal that kills most people in the national parks in America, like Yellowstone, like Yosemite and all that, is those animals. Dangerous things, and the kid's just there. Brianna creates a diversion, and she gets this thing to chase her and get away from the kid so they can get the kid in the house. The buffalo takes her out, right? Claire appears from nowhere and shoots the thing dead in an instant. A couple of things were a wee bit unrealistic about that scene, but anyway, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt because, like, where are you going to get a buffalo from in Scotland? They have had to do some really clever tricks to make that look as good as it did. Anyway, they're still tending to Jamie. He's not looking good whatsoever. And Claire's thinking if only we had the intravenous injection of penicillin, we might be able to save Jamie's leg. But unfortunately, we saw at the battle where Murtagh passed away, that stupid, horrible man stood on her veil and her needle of the penicillin. Horrible man he was. And so she doesn't actually have a needle anymore. The maggots came. Somebody found some maggots. And the guys went out there and they found maggots and they brought it back to the house. And it obviously goes into Jamie's wound. And that's horrible. I hate that. I'm not a fan of that type of thing. Nasty. Anyway, it gets to nightfall. It's not looking good, guys. It's really not. But Jamie asks Roger and young Ian for a favour and saying he wants to sleep in his own bed. He does not want to sleep on the patient's bed. Anyway, he wants to sleep in his own bed upstairs, so they manage to drag him up there and put him in his own bed. Then they have that chat about kind of amputation and all that stuff again. Just the men and Jamie. This was my favourite moment in this whole episode I'm going to tell you about. Young Ian starts to talk to Jamie, has a chat with Jamie about amputation and saying to Jamie, you're just saying you don't want to do this because of your own pride. You'd rather die because of pride rather than taking your leg off. And then goes into this big thing about his own father cutting his leg off, Fergus taking his arm off, and saying he used to look up to Jamie, but maybe he shouldn't anymore because these men were able to do it. Why can't he in that time of need? Brilliant scene. That dialogue was great. The acting between all of them was just incredible. Really great scene, and that was probably my favourite part of this episode. I think it was just done so well. Young Ian and Fergus have a chat about the whole thing as well, and I love the part about Fergus as well saying, in one stroke you become a man of leisure, telling that to young Ian about the whole thing, and I think that was just really fascinating and interesting as well. Really good bits of dialogue throughout there. I really enjoyed those scenes. And it gets to night time, and Claire's up there with Jamie on the bed. And we have this moment where we think, actually, Jamie's going to die now. He's that bad. He's going to pass away. And for a moment, it looks like he has. And then Claire gets naked to save him. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. This isn't how it's usually supposed to work. Jamie said to her, as he was about to pass away, I want you to touch me, which Claire does, and she gets naked, and that saves Jamie. That pulls him back from the dead, essentially. It was a bit weird. I'm not sure if that was a moment from the books or whatever. Presumably it was. Because it's just too weird. I think it's too weird a thing to conjure up the show writers on their own without that being in the book. So my bet is that's something from the books. There's no way it can't be. I did think it was weird, but anyway it worked. It saved Jamie's life. Naked Claire brought Jamie back from the dead. The next morning he is doing a little bit better. He's obviously survived the night. And now is the time to cut his leg off. He said, listen, I listened to young Ian. He is right. If this is what needs to be done, it needs to be done. Let's take the leg off. And they're about to go there. They're about to do it. And I'm thinking, wow, I didn't expect this. Actually, Jamie's going to lose his leg. I didn't expect the future of Outlander to go on with Jamie not having a leg because I know there's going to be battles to come. And it'll be a lot harder if he has a wooden leg, essentially, in those times especially. Anyway, as that's about to happen, before it's about to happen, we see Marsley in the woods with Fergus, goes into labour, and we're thinking, not now. This is about the worst possible time to go into labour. I mean, that's just the last thing anybody needs right now. Claire is occupied, she cannot help. Anyway, she seems to be out in the woods and they're going to have to deal with it. I don't know if you remember early in the episode when they were out in the woods, Jamie and Roger, after he got bit. Jamie had cut the head of the snake off and Roger, unknown to anyone else, brought it back with him in his pocket. And he shows it to Brianna, right? He was about to chuck it on the fire, but Brianna grabs it off him. And she has a brainwave. She thinks, wait a minute, this snake injects venom into people intravenously through a little hole in its tooth. Could the tooth of the snake be used as an intravenous needle? She takes the idea to Claire. And here we go. It has saved the day. It's a genius idea. Now Claire has an intravenous injection that she can put antibiotics into Jamie's bloodstream, possibly saving his life. And of course it works. Jamie is alive. He is much better now. They've had this whole thing. He's had the injections. And that is what has saved him ultimately from losing his leg. Really, really clever idea, and I think that was something from the books. Obviously, it has to be. These two things, I think, the thing with Claire pulling Jamie back from the dead, and also the snake venom thing, the snake fang, which Brianna thought that could be the answer to being a needle. Weird concepts, but I like them. I think they work nicely into the show. And also, I think they did it very well on the show. I think all the acting throughout was just absolutely sensational and incredible in this episode. Jamie says to Roger, you don't have to go after Bonnet anymore. I'm still going to be able to take care of it because I'm going to be alive. I'm going to be fine. But I don't know, at the end of this episode, I was thinking about the one theme of death. And that's something that really gives me anxiety. It's something that always has really bothered me. And it was really kind of thrown into our faces in this episode in a way that I wasn't expecting and made me feel kind of a deep connection at the end there. And a little bit anxious as well, to be honest with you. But also, looking at the bigger picture right now about what's going on in the world. I mean, just here in the UK, we are getting literally thousands of deaths every single day. And around Europe, thousands and thousands of deaths every day, and around the world because of this nasty virus, right? And that definitely linked the timing of what they're talking about with death, the feeling of death, and how fragile we all are with actually what we are all facing right now. And it really brought that home. It connected the two things in a way that I wasn't expecting. Obviously, the people who run the show in Outlander and Diana did not expect this connection either, but that's the connection I felt at the end of this episode. The stories of death, Jamie's near-death experience, and what it was like, you know, going towards a tunnel and being brought back and all that kind of thing, with the feeling right now that we are losing a lot of people around the world right now. Guys, that is the power of Outlander, I think. It makes you emotional and brings you those connections that you don't always expect that they will come out. But I want to know if anybody else felt that connection. Did you feel that kind of death thing with everything that's going on in the world right now? Outlander is really, really powerful like that. It brings you to places emotionally that you didn't expect to go. That's why it's just so great. So I want to say, anybody out there who's been affected by the virus, whose family or friends are dealing with this, and everybody who is isolating right now, I just want to give my biggest sympathies, and I hope everybody is keeping well and safe out there. I've not been out this flat for about a month now, and it's tough. It's really tough out there, guys. But, you know, I just hope, fingers crossed, that everybody who watches my videos and has engaged with me on social media is keeping safe and their families are keeping safe and well. I'm thinking of you all. Anyway, that was my review and my reaction to Outlander, episode 509. Remember, I only watched this one time and then I do a reaction right away, so maybe I have to watch it 2 or 3 times to get the nuances sometimes. I think that's one of the things that came out in last week's episode when I did the review, because I react instantly to what I see in the show and say what I say, and then sometimes I'll watch it again and then I'll pick up a few kind of details that I might have missed, that might have pulled some bigger things into picture. So there is that. I do instant reactions to the first time I watched the episode, essentially. I think today's episode was really, really good and strong and powerful. Maybe not so much action, but a lot of kind of character conversations that were really important, I feel. And obviously book readers would have been probably thrilled that one of their big scenes, one of their big moments of the books appeared in the series. So I'd love to know your thoughts down below in the comments. What did you think of this episode and the acting? Like I said, it was a good one. Really, really good. Good acting, good moments, good character building, and all the rest of it. I liked it. Good episode. But mainly for me, it was the way that they emotionally took me and connected dots between the kind of whole situation that's going on in the world right now with the show and Outlander. Ironically, they didn't mean to do it. Absolutely did not, but that's how I felt. Like I said, in the comments down below, I want to know your thoughts, but also, if you want to tell me on social media your thoughts, I'm on Instagram, I am on Twitter, I am on Facebook. The links for all that are down below. Come and check me out. Anyway, guys, I just want to give a big shout out to all the people listed down below. These are my top supporters on Patreon. Their support on Patreon really enables me to keep going with my content, keep going with my channel, and it really, really means a lot to me that these people would come onto my Patreon platform and support me. And they, of course, get a lot of extras like behind-the-scenes content and bloopers and all other sorts of stuff that I do for Patreon-only members. I'd be very grateful if you would consider joining those guys. The link is down below in the comments for that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this review. It's been great to speak to you as always. And until the next episode, I hope you have a good night, morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever time of day it is wherever you are in the world. Take care.